The movie begins with a group of armed men approaching a mansion where a man named Javier lives with his daughter Eve. He notices lights flashing in a mirror, which alerts him to danger. Quickly, he hides his daughter behind a secret door and prepares to fight off the intruders to protect her. However, he is outnumbered, and the men manage to capture him. The leader of the group, known as the Chancellor, enters the room and demands that Javier hand over his daughter, as she is his granddaughter and belongs to his group, known as the Cult. The Chancellor gives Javier a grim choice to shoot himself to save his daughter. Just as Javier is about to take the drastic step, his daughter, Eve, calls out to him, which grabs the attention of the men. This distraction allows Javier to fight back. During a struggle with one of the attackers who seems to have the upper hand, Eve shoots the assailant to save her father.
Javier places explosives in the house to neutralize the threat from the cult. While trying to escape through a secret passage, he gets hit by a bullet. He manages to get Eve out of the house before the explosion, but the gunshot proves to be fatal. A man named Winston approaches Eve and offers to take her to her father's family. He brings her to an organization called Roma, which her father was a part of. There, she meets a woman known as the Director, who runs a theater, which, in fact, is a training ground for assassins. The Director accepts her into the organization. Winston gives her a coin, telling her that he will be at her service whenever she needs him. Eve undergoes intense training for 12 years to become an assassin. She has a friend at Roma who is struggling in her training. One day after returning from training, she discovers that her friend's belongings are gone. Concerned, she goes to the Director to inquire about her friend. The Director informs her that her friend is not suited to be an assassin and that their paths have diverged. Eve insists that she is ready for a real job. The Director takes her to a room where she must compete against another assassin in a deadly test, where only one will survive. Eve assembles her gun before the other woman and shoots her. One day, she sees a man named John Wick, a master assassin, and asks him how she can become like him. John tells her to leave this life, as she still has a choice. Eve's first assignment is to protect the daughter of a wealthy businessman from being abducted, and she is equipped with
rubber bullets
for this task. She heads to a club where she discovers the girl enjoying herself. Suddenly, she notices a group of men approaching, and they try to take the girl with them. Eve intervenes to help her, leading to a confrontation between Eve and the men. Although she seems outnumbered, she regains her composure and employs her skills to take down the sidekicks. She then focuses on the leader and defeats him to save the girl.
You are here.
During one of her assignments, Eve notices a mark resembling an X on a man's hand, which is the same mark she had seen on the men who killed her father. Eve cuts the guy's hand and takes it to the Director to inquire about the mark. The Director warns Eve to stay away from this group, as there is a long-standing truce between the Roma and the group. Unsatisfied with the Director's answers, Eve decides to seek out Winston. She uses the coin that Winston gave her when she was a kid. Bound by his word, Winston reveals that it is a cult with no rules that kills for sport. He informs her that one cultist, Daniel Pine, is staying at the Prague Continental and has a large bounty on him. Eve travels to Prague to find Daniel, but discovers that there are already assassins in the hotel, waiting for their chance to claim the bounty on him. She books a room next to Daniel's. Entering through his room's window, she is unaware that a cult sniper is watching her from a nearby roof. Once inside, she is surprised to find a young girl named Ella, who is Daniel's daughter. Daniel appears from behind Eve and asks what she wants. She tells him that she is searching for the tribe that killed her father. As they converse, the leader, Lena, increases the bounty on Daniel, attracting several assassins to descend upon Pine's hotel room. As the assassins enter the room, Eve and Pine work together to confront the assassins and manage to escape. Daniel asks Eve for her help in saving his daughter, as he wishes to provide her with a better life away from the cult. As they flee the hotel, a cult member shoots Daniel while Eve watches helplessly from across the railway tracks. At that moment, Lena strikes Eve, causing her to lose consciousness, and kidnaps Ella. Lena then hands Eve over to the hotel security. Eve claims that she hasn't broken any rules and that the other two instigated the fight. The hotel manager orders his staff to shoot the two assassins, but spares Eve, instructing her to leave. Thereafter, Eve visits the arms dealer Frank and shows him the cult's mark. Frank admits that he knows less about it than she does and prefers to stay uninvolved. While he is showing her the weapons, they are ambushed by the cult. Eve successfully takes down the attackers, and after seeing the mark on their hands, Frank decides to help Eve and narrow down the location of the cult's base. Eve arrives in the town of Halstat, Austria. While having coffee, she notices a man entering the cafe who suddenly begins shooting at her. During the altercation, Eve breaks his arm and then shoots him. As she is leaving the cafe, she encounters the owner, who is revealed to be a cultist. Soon, she is joined by other members of the community who attack Eve. After dealing with them, Eve manages to escape from the cafe. Meanwhile, a man in the tower informs the Chancellor that Eve is still at large. The Chancellor then orders full protocol, which requires engaging every resident of the city to capture her. She soon finds herself surrounded and captured by the town's inhabitants. Lena examines the mark on Eve's back and recognizes it as a sign of Ruska Roma heritage. Lena informs the Chancellor about her affiliation with the Ruska Roma. When Eve is asked why she is there, she recounts the story of how her father was killed by his men. The Chancellor soon realizes that Eve belongs to the cult. He brings Lena to another room and tells her that Eve is her sister. While they are talking, Eve manages to free herself and escapes. Lena follows Eve to a house, where Eve disarms her. At that moment, Lena reveals that Eve is her sister, explaining that their father took Eve away because he believed the cult had already indoctrinated Lena. Meanwhile, the cult's men surround the house and inform the Chancellor about the situation. Upon hearing that Eve and Lena are talking, the Chancellor orders their executions. They throw explosives into the house, causing fatal injuries to Lena. Before she dies, Lena expresses her love for Eve. After taking down the men who enter the house to check on them, she responds to the Chancellor's message, declaring that she will end his life. In response, the Chancellor calls the director to declare that the truce with Ruska Roma is over because of Eve. The director informs him that Eve has gone rogue and it is no longer under her control. To calm the Chancellor, she agrees to send someone to stop Eve. He gives her time until midnight, otherwise the cult will attack the Ruska Roma. It turns out that she has sent John Wick to resolve the issue. The Chancellor orders the cult not to engage with Eve until midnight. John finds Eve and asks her to abandon her pursuit and leave. However, she refuses his offer and starts shooting at him. This leads to a fight between the two, where John demonstrates why he is a master in this profession and manages to take her down. Eve pleads with John to let her seek revenge for her father's death. Feeling compassion for her suffering, John gives her until midnight to complete the task. Eve resumes fighting the cult across Halstat, prompting the Chancellor to re-engage his people in killing Eve. Looking at the damage she is causing to the cult, the Chancellor orders his best men to destroy Eve. She gets hold of a flamethrower and torches several members of the cult with it. She engages with an elite member of the cult, and a fierce fight between them starts, with both using flamethrowers against the other. As her flamethrower runs out, she uses water from a fire hydrant to defend herself, but it doesn't help, as the guy is about to torch her. John helps her by taking down the man. The cult finds John's location and attacks him. However, being a master assassin, he manages to take care of them without much hassle. The Chancellor tries to escape Halstat with Ella, but Eve manages to stop them. The Chancellor gets out of the car and attempts to reason with Eve, arguing that even if she kills him, the cult will still survive. However, Eve remains on guard and executes him before midnight. John decides to let her go and informs the director about the outcome. Eve rescues Ella and reunites her with a recovering Daniel Pine at the Prague Continental. Meanwhile, Eve seeks refuge at the New York Continental after leaving the Ruska Roma. While attending a ballet performance, Eve discovers that there is a $5 million bounty on her head and promptly leaves the theater. And the movie ends there.